Good day, viewers and listeners, and welcome again to another program where we'll be discussing about the plethora of measures instituted in the country to cushion the rising cost of living, which includes the recent announcement of a 6.5 salary increase for public servants. I'm your host, Godfrey Brooms, and with me in studio is the Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, the Honorable Deodat Indar. Minister, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Art Minister, and we're going to start directly with the announcement made yesterday by the Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, who announced that there will be a 6.5% increase to public servants' salaries retroactive to January 2023.
Correct.
How do you anticipate this will benefit the country overall?
Well, to start with, it will benefit individuals and the collective of individuals, which is about 54,000 public servants. The collective will see about $7.5 billion more in their hands. So I've seen a lot of persons, and in the usual case, every time something happens in the country, there are persons who go out and, on social media and they write all sorts of stuff. So let me just give you, first of all, in 2021, we had 7%. In 2022, we had 8% increase. And in 23 now is 6.5. So in the 3 years, a person would have seen 21.5% increase on the salary. But we must understand that your salary is increased compounding. So 2021, if a person was working $100,000, 7% would have given them $107,000, right? That is the 2021. In 2022, when they get 8%, it's 8% on the 107,000. It will take you around $115,560. That would be $8,560. So it's compounding on the 7. Now in 2023, if you get 6.5% increase, it's 6.5% of $115,560, which will take you to $123,071 if you do the math. I'm just giving you an example. So it's compounding on the increase is compounding on one another. So the value of the increase for 6.5% in 2023 for a single person working 100 grand would be about $7,500, which would be more than the 7% they would have received in
2021
in dollar value.
Yes.
So you need to I think that persons, I think everybody knows that, who work the salary, they know that. It's just people sometimes try to throw cold water on everything you do, but we have to look at that, and then there's the other side of it too. So we are increasing salaries at 7%, 8%, 6.5%. We have to see what the private sector is doing too, because a lot of private sector people in 2021 didn't take up their salaries at 7%, and in 2022 they didn't take it up to 8%, and in 2023 some of them, I don't know as yet what they've done, but normally in the private sector they look at the inflation rate. That is normally be a guiding thing, and then whatever government increase, they use that as negotiation tools between the unions and their staff. So the inflation rate for 2021, let's look at those. The inflation rate for 2021 was 5.7%. We give 7% increase. In 2022, it was 7.2%. We give 8% increase. This year, so far, I think the inflation is far below those two numbers, right? I got some preliminary numbers from the Bank of Guyana before I came here. It's far below those numbers. And we're given 6.5% increase. Now, there is something that you have to understand, that if you continue to increase at a progressive rate all the time, and the private sector can't keep up with that, you will have a migration of workers from the private sector into the public sector. So you have to look at the whole scenario when you're looking at salary increases. It's not that 6 point persons wouldn't be happy for more than 6.5. I mean, as a government, you want to make sure you give your people good salaries. You want to make sure, and as a policy, the government to continue to increase salaries, continue to raise the minimum wage. Um, but I believe that we have to take those different things into consideration and to clarify too that you remember your salary increase is compounding on every year that you know your salary. So year one, year two, and year three, it compounds it all the time. So a person would see about a 21.5% increase from 2021 to now on a salary, right? On a salary of 100. I'm just using 100,000 as a example for the for simplicity. 21.5% in 3 years, and I don't think that's bad.
It isn't, and you may be able to explain it better than I can. We should also take into consideration that the oil and gas sector is really pumping a lot of money to increase our economy, and we're diversifying, yes. But if the oil and gas sector should suffer a loss, if the prices tumble, if the agriculture sector goes down, the 6.5% increase is monthly, and government must also be able to complete that 6.5 every month. We need to brace that against the amount of money coming into the economy, and you would be able to explain that better than I can.
Yeah, but so money coming in into the economy is one thing. Private sector can take up wages, they can bring down wages, they can make people redundant, they can close plants. Government, it's difficult for government to do that. When government set up a price increase, they intend to make sure that it's sustainable in the long haul. So the sustainability of the increases, you know. So that is one of the things that you have to consider when you're raising public sector salaries. You have to look at the different variables that, when you make a decision as government, how it affects the private sector, how it affects movement of staff between private and public sector. You know, if you have a migration of staff, but rightly so, the oil and gas sector indeed they pay a tad more, but those jobs are only so much. They can't. The sector is only as big as it is.
Yes.
There are multiple other sectors in the country that are growing too and are more what we call labor intensive sectors. The oil and gas sector is known to be a capital intensive sector, right? But so we need to look at that, but we also need to look at the many other things that we are doing. So a person gross pay is not everything about a remuneration package. They have allowances and all the other things that they would get, right? So all of that. I mean, our government have done a plethora of different things to assist our people, right? So maybe I could discuss some of that with you if you'd like.
Yes, you can go
Right.
ahead.
So I made some notes because I believe that it is important. You know, teachers. Let's go first. Let's go to the health workers. About 5,000 health workers, and about another 9,000 members of the discipline service had some anomalies in their positions, and those were sorted out. In November of this year, President did some adjustment to salary for graduate teachers too, about maybe 4,500 of them, and to fix the anomaly, he made sure that the scale that each teacher is on, especially if they had the relevant degree from the UG or they were certified by the National Accreditation Council, they would have gotten the maximum of the scale. And that, I believe that costs taxpayers about $500 million. And then and that was in addition to all of the pre-existing allowances that they had, right? Then there, what you call the remote area incentive, that there benefited another 2,400 public servants, teachers, right? And another 260 million was spent on that, right? We moved that, we adjusted that to about 20,000 monthly, effective from December 1, right? We had duty-free incentive in there too for teachers. They had duty-free of 1,500cc car. They had a 1 month bonus restored to them for the discipline services, as you know that, and that benefited about about 12, 9,000 of them,
12,000.
12,000
Yes.
12,000 of them. I think it's 1.5 billion for that, right?
Yes.
We also had the increase of the threshold in the tax. So we had it for us at 65,000, we raised it to 75, meaning that at that level you don't be taxed. Then that was in 2022, and now in 2023 is now 85,000. So anybody working below that, they don't pay any tax, right? That's PAY we're talking about. We have raised by 60% old age pension. So the old age pension was $20,500 in 2020. It's now at 33,000. We have a 75% increase in public assistance payments. It was 9 grand, and now it's about 16,000. We bought about $7 billion. Flood relief. We had about $7 billion in flood relief. We help farmers in 2021 when you had a flood. So all of these things we're doing to help people. We have about 214,000 children in the school system, thereabout. Right now, every child receives about $40,000. That's a lot of assistance to families. Moving on from that, we at a household level, we, as you know, we had a 25,000 COVID relief that we had. We gave that cost about 7.5 billion. We had a program where we help about 8,000 fisher folk, with 150,000 per person. That is about another $1.2 billion. We have a program that we put in to help single mothers and persons who in the family that didn't have, a job, and difficult to find one. So we had this part-time work program where you work, I think it's 10 days per month you work, and you get $40,000. That, I could tell you, in 2023, the budget was about 10 billion for that program, and it's thousands of people across the country. So those are some of the things that I wanted to highlight in terms of what we have done. And in December as well, we will have, in addition to the 6.5% increase, and it's retroactive to January, so you'll get a back pay to some extent. We have a $5 billion that we had in the budget for cost of living measures. So it's going to be in maybe 5 different areas. So the first area is we're going to look now at a one-off 25,000 cash grant for public servants, teachers, members of the discipline forces, staff of them semi-autonomous agencies, and so we'll have that. We'll have a 25,000 cash grant again for old age pensioners. So old age pensioners, there was, I think it's about 79. I don't have the exact figure. There's thousands of persons on that program. On the public assistance and disability, we also have a 35,000 cash grant for persons there. People who are on the schedule for public assistance, they will see that, and for disability. Farmers normally get assistance under this program for fertilizer, so there's 850 million set aside for that. And then the SIP workers. Across all of these NDCs that we have SIP workers that are employed. So their salary will go up now to 40,000 effective December 1. So there's a lot of things that are happening. So to offset impact of high prices of vegetables in the market, or imported canned goods because of international freight and these kind of thing. And I know recently we had a dry spell, so you had prices for certain food items went up. So we are cognizant of the fact. We are not tone deaf to what the realities on the ground. We are on the ground all the time, so we know of the problems that the country is facing, families are facing. But these, I think that because of all of the measures that we have put in and continue to put in, and will put in the balance of this $5 billion in December too, it shows a pattern that we recognize when they have issues and we intervene on them. Year by year, since we came back in government in 2020, we have been intervening in various ways to assist people to alleviate the impact of high cost of living on their lives.
So, Minister, you brought together all of these measures and initiatives and policies. When clumped together, how do they influence the economy and the growth of it?
Well, every single one of these measures, they, in some way, they have more disposable income in person's hand. So persons now were able to go spend more with the corner shop. The corner shop were able to buy more from the suppliers. The suppliers were able to now order more from the manufacturers or the importers. So there's a chain reaction that happens in the volume goes up. So there's movement in the economy because some persons will save some, but some person will spend, right? Movement, people move around, people, it's a Christmas season, people do a little more during Christmas. So you'll see that, the economy you'll see the buoyancy. And the buoyancy has been in the economy for quite some time now because of the policies of our government and how we have move about in managing the economy. And you've seen that in the years, the numbers are reflected in the economic growth. Last year we closed at 62.3% GDP. This year we are expected somewhere around 38. I think the IMF just reported, right? Growth in GDP. Those are numbers nobody else in the world are seeing. So the effect of we call it some effects of all of these programs is really to get monies in people's hand, create demand in the system. So the supply side, will generate more. When supply side generate more, they have to order more. You have to order more raw material, more packaging. Workers have to work more overtime. Companies have to pay more money. So money, just the velocity of money now is speeded up. Things that are moving faster. Freight and transportation, you'll see that going up. Local transportation, you'll see that going up. You will see more fuel, more lubricants being bought. You'll see more parts being sold. You'll see more tires being sold. So the entire thing, once you have movement, you have wear and tear. When you have wear and tear, you have to replace. Somebody's providing that. Somebody's providing that service. So once you have more movement, more activity, it just generates demand all the time.
Yes, Minister, and how do these measures, these programs, align with government's overall objective and image?
I think that if you talk to every private sector person, and in all honesty, they will tell you, and you'll see the posted profits, you'll see the increase in their sales, because apart from the non-oil sector growing, the oil and gas sector is growing, and that is a machinery by itself that just keep demanding services all the time, because most of those companies, they operate with strict timelines on project delivery. So things have to happen and happen on time and required speed. So it's pulling from the local sector to supply that offshore sector, and you have some of the onshore services. So it because of that, you're getting a lot of demand in the country for more food stuff, canned stuff, more services, inspection services, transportation, storage, warehousing, all of the different things that you need to get by in the business, they need it. So you have that entire, we call network of service providers and goods providers have to supply the sector. So that means that businesses that weren't there start to pop up. More businesses start to pop up.
Yes,
Right?
and with that demand, we are seeing more investors coming into the country. Only in a recent interview we had with the owner of the New Haven Merchant Bank, he confessed that Guyana is one of the best destinations for investments.
Correct. So investors will come, especially when you have a investment destination like Guyana with a good regime of incentive. Whether we don't charge anybody if they have institutions to supply service of education, zero taxes on that. Medical services in terms of the institution, no tax on that. The oil and gas sector, it's driving a lot of the demand in terms of housing, in terms of condominiums, in terms of hotels, in terms of catering, in terms of transportation, logistics, warehousing, food, inspection services, welding fabrication services, security services, you name it, a long list of them. So the demand now is high, and it has to be met by the local economy, right? And most times you'll find now, because of the local content law that we have, it's bearing fruit. So a lot of Guyanese are part of that process. I know there are areas that we have to strengthen, but it's going in the right direction that Guyanese are given preferences in a number of areas where they supply the offshore side. So I don't want the conversation to move away, but um, in the general view of how the country is going, I think there's enough momentum, and I think that when they say high tides lift all boats, that's the saying I think they have, something like that.
Yes.
So because of the growth that is happening in the country, I think everybody is seeing some level of expansion.
All right, Minister, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just that the president of Guyana continued to lead in a way that is, that he cares for the people of the country, and I believe that he tries and he does everything that he can within, within context of how much we have as a total spend and how much we can do for every area um, in the country, because there are different areas. But if you can see that some of the things that I said earlier, that the concentration is the poor and the vulnerable groups, public servants. As you can see, most of the thing, farmers, fisher folk, teachers, the army, folks in the uniform part of the public sector. So all of these groups of Guyanese, special attention, as you can see, is being placed on them, and these incentive measures, are there. Whether it's the farmers, whether it's, um, even across the board things, whether it's the sugar cane workers. Remember, we had to, they got some payments as well too. I think I failed to mention that they got some money. I think it's 250,000 per
Yes.
person, right? I think it was 4,500 of them. So they also got as well too. So as you can see, the different groups, and there are other groups that are not mentioned here that you have programs to deal with them too.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much, Ahmed.
And there you have it from the minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat Indar, who would have deconstructed some of these measures to alleviate the rising cost of living into digestible bits. I've been your host, the Godfrey Brooms. Thank you for watching, and do join me again next time.